here to my right, and Commissioner Annie Keither is online on Zoom. Hold on, I've got to get my iPad muted. So to make participation in this hearing as convenient as possible for Black Hills Energy customers across the state, this hearing is also being held virtually by Zoom and with live streaming to YouTube. Please bear with us if you experience any technical difficulties. This proceeding was initiated by Black Hills Energy to request the Kansas Corporation Commission approve a rate increase, producing an annual revenue increase of $17,207,752 for the company, which it believes to reflect the reasonable ongoing cost of serving its customers. This evening, our program will function in two parts. First, you will hear brief presentations explaining the company's proposals from representatives of Black Hills Energy. You will also hear presentations from the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board, or CURB, and the Kansas Corporation Commission staff. After the presentations, we will have a question and answer period. And then later, after that concludes and after a brief break, we will start the official public comment period. So first, we will begin with the presentations, as I mentioned, and our first presenter will be Mark Ayer, who is Vice President of Operations for Black Hills Energy. Mr. Ayer, go ahead.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your interest and attendance for those joining in person and virtually tonight. Go here. Next slide. At Black Hills Energy, our mission is to improve life with energy. We fulfill that mission by providing safe, reliable natural gas service to approximately 120,000 customers in 68 communities across Kansas. We're grateful for that opportunity and take that responsibility seriously. We also believe that that mission to improve life with energy is not limited just to the natural gas that heats homes and fuels businesses, but also applies to the hard work, dedication, and energy our Kansas-based employees bring every day as they give back to the communities where they live and work. As a regulated utility, we know that we only succeed when the communities we are privileged to serve are growing and strong. And so that's why we are proud to be an active community partner, supporting local economic development efforts and important community events and initiatives across the state. On the map on the screen, it shows our service territory across the state with our 3 operating divisions. We have working groups in Lawrence, Wichita, and Southwest Kansas with service centers in Dodge City, Garden City, Liberal, and Goodland. Together, our team maintains and operates 4,765 miles of natural gas mains and services across the state to serve our customers. So why are we here tonight? Simply put, we are requesting an update in rates to reflect the increased cost of providing safe, reliable service to our customers. We take very seriously and are proud to serve the life-sustaining energy our Kansas customers deserve and expect, especially in the most extreme winter weather conditions. That is a requirement that we do not take lightly, and our success in delivering that is a direct result of careful planning, regular system updates, and ongoing maintenance activities to keep our system running smoothly and efficiently for customers. But it does come at a cost. There are 3 main drivers for the need for this rate application at this time. They include the recovery of prudent capital investments, higher interest rates, and record inflation. So first, capital investments. Since our last rate review application in 2021, we have invested approximately $118 million in capital improvements on behalf of customers. These include investments in pipeline safety, integrity, reliability, and growth. It is critical that we continue to replace aging facilities and out-of-date materials that are at a higher risk of failure. Second, increased interest rates. Just like anyone getting a loan, We are seeing higher interest rates and financing costs as we fund these customer-focused projects. And this rate review application reflects the higher interest environment we're now experiencing and living in. And then thirdly, record inflation. Since our last rate review, the country has seen the highest inflation rate in 40 years, peaking at just over 9% for the 12 months ending June 2022, which is the highest rate since the early 1980s. From materials like steel pipe or odorant to contract labor and virtually all aspects of providing required services, it costs more to operate and maintain the business today than it did 3 years ago. As mentioned earlier, we've made some significant investments in our system. And so I want to highlight some of those and how they benefit Kansas customers. First is our Accelerated Pipeline Replacement Program, or ARP. This program includes a multi-year plan to replace and eliminate all bare steel mains, bare steel service lines, and bare steel yard lines in Class 3 or urban locations by 2043. This significantly reduces the risk of leaks and enhances community and customer safety. Second, another one is integrity and reliability upgrades. This is where we evaluate areas that are prone to pressure losses due to capacity constraints and are at risk for service interruptions during peak flow conditions, most often during the coldest times of winter. Through careful engineering designs, we determine the most economic solution to address these risks, which include installing larger diameter pipe, or in some cases, adding a second feed or looping the system to improve reliability and prevents future service interruptions to customers. So this slide illustrates the thorough and transparent rate review process from the time we make an investment to the time a request potentially gets approved and reflected in customer rates. In step 1 and 2, Black Hills carefully plans for, finances, and constructs needed projects. When they are placed in service, our customers immediately realize the benefit and value of those projects in the reliable service they receive. After multiple months, even up to several years, these investments continue until we seek recovery of those costs through rates. In step 5, we then file a formal rate application, which kicks off another 7 to 8 month process, including the customer comment hearing that we're having tonight. And I believe that KCC staff will touch on the process a little bit more, but I wanted just to highlight the benefit to customers as these projects are placed in service and the timeline as we value our customers' feedback throughout the process. As proposed, this table shows the monthly bill impact by rate class. An average residential customer using 50 therms of gas a month would see an approximate $11 per month increase. Also listed are commercial and irrigation sales customers. And if approved, we would anticipate that these rates would go into effect sometime after the commission order, which is scheduled in late August. I would note that this rate review does not affect the cost of natural gas, the actual commodity cost, which is adjusted monthly in Kansas and passed through to customers without any markup from Black Hills Energy. As we wrap up, I just wanted to reiterate our commitment to Kansas and the communities we serve. Each year, we publish a community impact report. In 2024, Black Hills Energy had a direct economic impact of just under $50 million for the state of Kansas. This includes contributions and sponsorships to nonprofits, local chambers, and economic development organizations. Company and employee donations to the United Way, and energy assistance, scholarships, and investments in trees. I'm especially proud of our Black Hills Energy employee team for their donations, volunteer hours, and pictured there on the right is training for first responders, making a difference in the communities we serve. We certainly realize the impact of rising energy bills for our customers. That's why we've worked hard to control our cost and have avoided updating our base rates for 3 years. We continue to work to manage costs, increase efficiencies, with the goal of maintaining stable bills for customers while navigating record high inflation. To help customers who may be struggling with their bills, we have increased our efforts to provide support for customers, including launching a new energy assistance team that helps our most vulnerable customers get access to both federal and local energy assistance programs and funds, and provides resources for them. We also have energy saving tips, bill payment options, and additional resources on our website, blackhillsenergy.com, including information about enrolling in budget billing, which is a free payment plan that averages the amount owed each month and is a great way to avoid seasonal spikes due to weather. Again, we thank you for your attention and interest and appreciate the opportunity to provide more information. Look forward to answering any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ayer. And as I mentioned, we will all have an opportunity to ask questions of the representatives, but we'll hold until after we've had all three presentations. So our next presentation will be from Joseph Astrab, who is Consumer Counsel for the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board, or CURB, and he will give us some more context about their part in these proceedings.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Again, my name is Joseph Astrab, and I'm the Consumer Counsel for the Citizens Utility Ratepayer Board, or CURB. Thank you all for taking the time to be part of this regulatory proceeding today and attending the public hearing. CURB is the government agency tasked with representing the interest of residential and small commercial ratepayers before the Kansas Corporation Commission. And we appreciate the commission and its efforts to host this public hearing because it's a great opportunity for agencies like us to hear directly from all of you. As I mentioned before, we are a government agency. We're a small government agency. We are governed by a 5-panel board that is appointed by the governor for 4-year staggered terms. Each member of our board is appointed from the 4 congressional districts, plus 1 additional member from the state at large. These 5 board members are volunteers. They're not paid for their time and compensated for any mileage they may incur coming to visit us in Topeka in order to host meetings and to provide guidance on our policy work. About our office, we have myself, the Consumer Counsel, and then within our office, we have 1 additional attorney working cases, 3 in-house rate analysts, and 2 administrative professionals. Although we are a small agency, we intervene in nearly all KCC dockets regarding jurisdictional utility services. Just in fiscal year 2024 alone, we intervene in over 120 cases. So what does CURB do necessarily? It's our mission to represent residential and small commercial utility ratepayer interests, first and primarily before the Kansas Corporation Commission and their dockets, but we also have a role with the Kansas legislature. During the legislative session, CURB representatives are there providing testimony on bills, answering legislators' questions, and providing research and having a voice for consumer interest at that stage. Furthermore, we're involved in Kansas appellate court cases. Whenever a decision is rendered at the commission level, it can be appealed by a party up to the court system and follow that up all the way to the Supreme Court. And so when ratepayer interests are involved in that level, we are there. And finally, and we believe also an important part of our role is to be a resource for the public. Our lines and emails are always available for people to ask questions about their utility service, questions about their bills, and just generally get information about what's going on at the KCC at that level. So we're always looking forward to hearing more from our constituents. So how does rate regulation work in Kansas? And in terms of natural gas utilities, KSA 66-1202 requires that natural gas utilities provide reasonably efficient and sufficient service at just and reasonable rates. What does that mean necessarily? In the context of a rate case, the application is filed by the company to make adjustments to its rates with a full accounting of its expenditures, operations, and other requested programs. This goes to begin establishing the evidentiary record from which the commission will render a decision determining just and reasonable rates and what is needed to provide that efficient, sufficient service. And so the process becomes Other groups such as CURB and KCC staff, but other individual interest groups can be involved in this case as well, providing their unique perspectives and information. And so CURB strives to communicate and work with all these groups in order to advocate all our different causes. And as a result, that provides a robust record for the commission to make its decision. As I've mentioned, these diverse views from different stakeholder groups outside of CURB provide for a robust record and effective regulation. The commission's role in all of this is to view all this evidence, weigh it appropriately, and provide a balance of all the competing interests involved to provide a good outcome for all types of ratepayers and the utility. CURB is currently in the process of reviewing the application. As part of this evidentiary process, parties are permitted to file direct testimony in response to the application by the company. And that testimony will be out by May 9th, 2025. And so generally, we look at a couple different issues in rate cases. What capital investment is necessary for efficient and sufficient service? What is a fair rate of return for the utility on those investments? And what are fair charges to be assessed to the customer? So going over the company's request, as mentioned by the chair and discussed in the Black Hills presentation, they're requesting a net 17.2 million revenue increase, so revenue requirement increase to their rates. And what goes into that, in addition to the raw actual costs that they're incurring for their investments, but also return on the equity that they're investing. They're asking for a 10.5% rate of return on equity rate, which is basically the interest on what capital they raise through equity. In order to assess whatever increase comes out from this case, specifically to that 17.2 million revenue requirement increase, the company is requesting to make an increase to the fixed customer charge that customer sees on bills. This is the charge that no matter how much gas you may use in a given month is what you pay that goes towards fixed costs such as your meters, pipelines, and those types of things. The current customer charge is set at $18.50, in addition to about $2.27 from the gas safety and reliability surcharge. That's also part of fixed cost. As part of this rate case, not only into resetting that GSRS amount, they're also asking for an increase of $31.50 of the customer charge, which means more of your fixed costs are being placed into this fixed set charge and less of it's being recovered by the gas that you actually use. Furthermore, the company is making requests to change certain tariffs related to gas transportation type customers. These are the ones who simply use the pipelines with the gas that they purchase themselves to serve their own set of customers. So this includes revamping penalties assigned to over and under deliveries regarding what they're providing on the pipeline, but also it requiring advanced telemetry technology to better monitor and review how their pipeline's being used. And a final item of interest here is the request for an abbreviated rate case. The company is able to ask permission for the commission to allow them to file a shorter, more limited rate case to review some additional projects to update any additional expenses and costs that come after the rate case itself. So as I mentioned before, parties including CURB will be filing testimony supporting reasonable rates in response to the company's application. And so we'll be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, I will leave you with CURB's contact information here. And as mentioned before, public not only will be able to submit comments here at tonight's hearing, we'll be able to submit written comments to the Kansas Corporation Commission up until June 20th, 2025. And that information is both available on the KCC website and our website as well. Again, thank you so much for being here tonight. We look forward to your interactions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Astrab. Our final presentation of the evening will be from Patrick Hurley on behalf of the Kansas Corporation Commission staff. Mr. Hurley.
Thank you, Chairman French. My name is Patrick Hurley and I work for the Kansas Corporation Commission. As Chief Counsel, I represent the KCC staff. I'm here tonight to provide a high-level overview of the commission, how it operates, as well as explain how staff will analyze Black Hills rate increase application. On the screen, you see a short agenda. We'll kind of cover the commission, staff's analysis, which is what is required to look at by law, and other areas staff is focused on as they analyze the application. We'll also review important dates and other information. The commission is a state agency headed by 3 commissioners. The commissioners collectively act as a body in determining matters that come before them. The current commissioners are Chair Andrew French, Commissioner Dwight Keene, Commissioner Annie Keither. She's online. The commissioners are appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Kansas Senate, and serve staggered four-year terms. The commission has jurisdiction to oversee a number of industries that operate in Kansas, from electric, natural gas, and oil to telecommunications and motor carriers. The agency employs a staff of professionals who provide guidance and input on various technical issues related to these industries. Administrative hearings of the commission look similar to a trial you would see in a state court. The commission acts as judges and preside over the cases. They hear and weigh evidence, witnesses testify, and issue orders that can be appealed to higher courts. Black Hills is the applicant and a party to this case. Commission staff is a party to the case as well. Often a number of parties called interveners representing a variety of interests participate in the rate cases. Interveners develop and defend their own positions, recognizing that staff's duty is owed to the state of Kansas and the general public. As represented by this slide, the various parties are separate and have distinct and different roles in each case. Commission staff are dedicated state of Kansas employees and have a tremendous amount of education, professional knowledge, training in technical fields such as accounting, economics, engineering, and complex financial analysis. As the staff's attorney in this proceeding, I will advocate for their expertise, neutral, fact-focused analysis, and opinion of whether Black Hills' request for a rate increase is reasonable. During the proceedings before the commission, staff's main goal is promoting the public interest of the state of Kansas as a whole. This means that the staff weighs numerous competing interests and develops its own position that it believes is best for all stakeholders involved, including the ratepayers and the utility. Staff conducts an independent review of Black Hills' rate increase application request. This review includes an in-depth examination of Black Hills' finances, which allows staff to evaluate the application for accuracy and for compliance with Kansas law and commission regulations. They will also engage in identification of any positive or negative impacts on customers, the utility, and the public generally. They will determine the costs the utility is entitled to recover under the law from the customers it serves. They will evaluate the structure of the utility's rates to ensure they are fair and are based on the underlying costs to serve these customers. Once its review is complete, staff will submit written testimony setting forth its position on the application and actively participate in the case, advocating its position. Staff's role is not to help one party over the other, but rather to provide independent assistance to the commissioners in balancing competing interests and evaluating the total impact of the application on the public. Here's information about staff's testimony and ways you can make your opinion heard. Please feel free to take a photo. If you're wondering, the case and the docket are interchangeable words. In the last several months, staff has been working on this case, devoting most of their time, days, nights, weekends, analyzing Black Hills' application. We look forward to filing a comprehensive analysis of our position in the form of testimony on May 9th. You can access staff's testimony by going to the commission website, see the commission activity tab, the docket filings tab, and enter in the docket number. We encourage you to read through the case documents and keep up on the proceedings. As Black Hills highlighted earlier tonight, in summary, its request is a base rate increase of a little more than 17 million. They're going to track insurance expenses and eventually seek recovery at some point in time. They're going to file an abbreviated rate case for additional expenses they're incurring. The remaining deadlines in this docket are shown on this screen. Under the current schedule, the public comment period will end at 5 p.m. on June 20th. So you must submit your comments by June 20th at 5 p.m. We want to leave you with a little information about how you can submit a public comment in this case. You can follow it on our website. First, you can make a comment here tonight following these presentations. Second, you can go to the website and access the Your Opinion tab, scroll down to the section titled Public Hearing on Black Hills Rate Increase Request. And underneath that section, there's a link. Let's see here. There's a link here where you can submit a comment. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and we appreciate you attending this hearing and being with us. We look forward to your questions and your comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hurley. At this time, if there are any questions, we will start the question and answer session. This is an opportunity to ask questions of the three presenters, Black Hills, Kansas Corporation Commission staff, and CURB to better understand Black Hills' proposal. I do want to emphasize that this is separate from the official public comment opportunity, which will follow the question and answer session after a break. If you wish to make a formal comment for the commissioners to consider in this case, please save that for later this evening when I ask for public comments. If you are attending in person tonight and plan to make a public comment, please be sure to sign up with our public affairs staff in the lobby if you haven't already. I will be calling names later from that list. All right, if you wish to ask a question about the company's proposal, for those in the room, simply form a line at the microphone here in the middle of the room. For those participating on Zoom, if you wish to ask a question, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and I will call you in the order that I see those hands pop up. And I believe that's you can access the raise hand feature under the reactions tab on Zoom. And I'll try to alternate between people in the room and people on Zoom to the extent there are any questions. So again, emphasizing the public comment period will come next after a short break. But if there are any questions now, go ahead and raise hands on Zoom or walk to the microphone in the room. We've got one person in the room that's not shy.
There you go.
Representative Delperdang, go ahead.
Is this turned on? There you go. I seen the presentation. I understand the 17 million approximate as far as the rate increase. The question I've got is on the 10.5%. What is that figure today? And is that part of the new proposal, or is that just the 17 million brings you up to 10.5% return on investments or so forth?
I'll turn to Black Hills for that.
Yes, I mean, that's correct. That's what's proposed is the 10.5. I believe the current is a black box settlement, so it's not public.
Is a what?
Black box settlement, the last rate review in 2021.
Meaning not public or what?
Correct.
Okay, but isn't Black Hills a publicly traded? Is Black Hills a publicly traded company?
Yes, we're on the.
So
New York
wouldn't
Stock
that be out there for stockholders' information?
When it's listed in our 10K, it's listed as a black box settlement in Kansas. Other states have it if it's public.
Okay.
And not a black box settlement.
Right.
And to add some, is this on? To add some clarity to that, that simply means that the parties came together and reached an agreement on an end number without regard to specific inputs that got to the end number. So that's why we call it a black box settlement, is because we're not sure if it's the return on equity of 10% or another factor that caused it to get there. To your original question, the 10.5% that we are requesting is part of what makes up that $17.2 million. If that 10.5% was higher, the 17 million would grow, and if it was lower, then it would be reduced. But it is a part of that, yes.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I don't see any hands online, so I'll go. Yeah, I'll go to our next person in the room. Representative Carmichael, did you have a question?
I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is John Carmichael. I live at 1475 Leonette here in Wichita, and I'm in the House of Representatives. I'll refrain from commenting on black box settlements, but in the past, prior to this black box settlement, has Black Hills had publicly disclosed returns on investment? And if so, when was the last time that they were publicly disclosed, and what was the amount of return at that time?
To my knowledge, and this goes back to about 2014, there has not been an officially stated return on equity that has made it into a commission's final order. Now, that's not to say that there's not a return component to what we charge in our rates. It's just part of the overall comprehensive settlement. Our last two rate cases have ended in settlements, meaning all parties have come together and agreed upon a final number. And I would note that since 2014, Black Hills has only increased its base rate revenues through these rate cases by about $750,000. That goes to show, and we're very proud of that because we've done everything that we possibly could to battle higher operating expenses, higher capital investment due to materials, labor, supply and demand, and still able to only raise our base rates in these rate cases by $750,000 in over 10 years.
But now you're raising it by 17 million
That's our proposal, correct?
after it's only been how much in the past 15 years?
Since 2014,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
11 years.
Since 2014, our base rates through rate reviews, through rate cases have only increased by about $750,000.
Okay, so in the past 11 years, you've had an overall rate increase of $750,000, and today you're asking for 17 million?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I am going to turn to KCC staff. I think they could provide a bit more context.
So
Introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, my name's Chad Unrein. I'm the Chief of Finance and Accounting here at the KCC. I'm active in the audit division that kind of handles both the revenue requirement and the calculation of the overall capital structure and ROE. And essentially, Black Hills rate request includes a 10.5% return on equity. The reason a lot of times that settlements end up with an undisclosed ROE is simply that the company as well as staff has different positions both on the capital structure of the entity itself. Staff may look at parent entity debt and equity and may not result with the same capital structure that that Black Hills may propose. That results in a change in what the overall rate of return is and the return that's paid by customers. Black Hills rate request in this includes a 10.5% ROE. Staff will have its own testimony with its own calculation of, an independent analysis of what we believe the ROE should be in this case, as well as a revenue requirement calculation that will recalculate the Black Hills increase that we will file and support with witness testimony. That part of the rate case where we go into settlement ultimately can result in a black box number that parties may somewhat disagree upon. However, the net revenue requirement increase is really what staff is looking at in the individual cost structure of the company to say, here's where we believe a fair rate of return is, and here's where we believe a fair revenue requirement is for the customers to pay.
All right, I am not seeing any hands on the Zoom. I hope that's not an indication that people are having trouble raising hands, but I also don't see any comments or chats. I'll pause just a second to see if we have any other questions in the room. Looks like we do not. So what we're going to do at this time is we're going to take a 10-minute break. Mostly that is just to give folks another opportunity. If you do plan to make a comment, be sure to sign the sign-up sheet out in the front lobby. And then we will reconvene in 10 minutes we'll reconvene at 6:45. for the official public comment portion of the program. So we are now in recess, returning in 10 minutes. Okay, we are reconvening the public hearing in this matter. We will now start the official public comment period. This hearing is an important step in our evaluation process, and we do look forward to hearing your comments. The commissioners can't engage in dialogue with you during the proceeding. However, we may ask questions for clarification. I'm looking at my list of potential commenters, and it's not terribly long, so I'm not going to set a specific time limit, but I will ask that any comments be direct and succinct to be effective. Once you're called on, please begin by stating your name and the city or county you reside in, as your comments are being recorded and will be part of the official commission record. If you're participating on Zoom, you will need to unmute after I call your name. For everyone, please refrain from any inappropriate language or disruptive behavior, as that will result us in silencing your microphone. So please approach the podium as I call your name, or if you are participating on Zoom, you should be using the raise hand feature right now if you wish to make a comment. And I will alternate between live comments and Zoom comments as long as I see them. Also, in addition to the live comments you have an opportunity to make tonight, the commission is accepting written comments on its website at kcc.ks.gov. As staff mentioned, you can click on the Your Opinion Matters button on the homepage. Comments may also be submitted by mail to the Commission's Office of Public Affairs, and public comments will be collected until, they can also be made by phone as well. And there is a slide that we'll show at the end that shows how to do all of that. And I believe there are handouts out in the lobby that give that information as well. The comments submitted will be part of the official commission record and will carry the same weight as comments made tonight. If you do have lengthy comments, it may be best to submit them in writing. Again, please start with your name and the city or county where you live. We'll start in the room with Lou Ann Ward.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'm Lou Ann Ward. I live in Sedgwick County, Wichita, Kansas. I've read through the materials submitted to substantiate the increase, and I do have several concerns. Black Hills is suggesting the increase is needed to cover things like delivering service, investments in infrastructure, the rising costs of delivering natural gas, vehicle expenses, tools, labor, etc. But in my opinion, those costs would be the cost of doing business. Every company has expenses associated with the production and provision of their services. That doesn't mean they should be able to charge a customer for the use of the service as well as the cost to maintain or provide it. That should be Black Hill's responsibility. All my life, I've heard the term living on a fixed income. And as I've grown older, I've come to realize that we're all on a fixed income. Whatever our wages are, those are fixed. Whatever someone's social security check equals, those are fixed as well. When utility after utility proposes their own increases and they're approved, it equals more and more expense for the consumer with no new income coming in. For example, Evergy just asked for a rate increase in January 2025, which is 10.36% or $13.05 per month added to the bottom line for all of their users. The Water Department in January proposed and the City Council approved an increase of 6.75% on the cost of water. This is over and above the 5% annual increase that's been going on since 2019. How are people on a fixed income supposed to cope with those increases that are being allowed by our representatives? Social Security increases over the last 5 years. In 2021, it was 2.5, 22 and 23, it was 5.9, 24, 3.2%, and 2025, 2.5%. Using the state of Kansas employee wages as an example, in 21 and 22, their increase was 0. 23 and 24, it was 5%, and this year it's a 2.5% increase. How are citizens of Kansas supposed to cope with this increase from utilities on top of the rising costs of groceries, rent, property tax, gasoline, insurance, etc.? Not a single increase in wages or Social Security comes close to the type of increases being asked for by Black Hills or any of the other entities, and I'd like to know where those funds are supposed to come from. Why are corporate profit margins in the billions and they still come to the regulators with their hands out asking for money from the citizens to fund the improvements to their network to make them not only more profitable, but attractive to their investors. Our senior demographic is already struggling trying to keep their heads above water just from the cost of basic living. When you add on the cost of Medicare, supplemental insurance, doctor co-pays, donut holes, and drug coverage, it's a wonder they can still afford groceries. And with this increase, you're going to see more families turning their thermostat down even lower in the winter to survive. When that happens, Black Hills revenue will go down because less gas is used. So to appease their stockholders, will they have to request another increase in rates to make up the difference? A survey done recently by Resume Builder found that 1 in every 8 retirees are doing something called unretiring, with 20% either working full or part-time, and it's based on the increased cost of living. Others, like myself, are choosing to work longer, well past the date of full retirement for Social Security, because they know with things the way they are today, they can't survive on their Social Security alone, and many have little to no savings to fall back on. I understand the need for corporations to attract investors, and many of those investors are retirement plans and annuities that seniors have invested in over the course of their lives. That's great, and I'm glad those dividends are there for people to use to fund their retirements, but not every citizen was lucky enough to do that. So now they're footing the bill for improvements to make this company's bottom line more attractive when the company should be footing the bill for their own improvements and let citizens pay only for the services they use. I'm asking you to stop allowing utilities to make it harder on citizens that you're supposed to protect. I'm asking you to vote no on proposed increases, not only for this utility, but others who want to add more and more expense for Kansans to pay the tab. Our welfare has to matter more than the corporations and stockholders' profits. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. I'll now go online to Michael Brosh. Mr. Brosh, I think I've given you the ability to unmute. There you go.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Commissioner, staff, CURB, and concerned Black Hills ratepayers. I'm Michael Brosh. I live in Leawood, Kansas. I'm a retired utility regulation consultant and AARP volunteer. I have testified as an expert in many utility rate cases across the country, including on a few occasions in Kansas over the past 45 years. And I assisted AARP in filing formal written comments in the pending Black Hills rate case. And I wanted to touch on just a few of the topics in that filing at the hearing tonight. First, Black Hills is asking for a very large increase of more than $11 to an average residential bill. This is impactful to many senior citizens and others with modest incomes dealing with inflation in their other monthly bills. When compared to the company's revenues, exclusive of pass-through gas costs, this is a 27% increase in margin revenues that merits careful scrutiny by the Commission. An increase in margin revenues of this magnitude suggests questionable cost management by Black Hills and aggressive rate case positions being taken in the company's filing. One of the company's aggressive positions is a request for an excessive proposed return on equity of 10.5%. This ask is unreasonable and should be rejected. Shareholders should not be rewarded when the management has failed to aggressively control costs. This return is excessive in Kansas, where the regulatory framework shifts many operational costs directly onto Black Hills customers. When gas costs go up, they're passed through the PGA. When reliability supportive investments are made, they're passed through the GSR surcharge. When property taxes go up, they're passed through another surcharge to customers. When Winter Storm Uri threatened the company, you guessed it, customers reimburse these costs. The list goes on, with few risks actually retained by Black Hills investors. And now, with insurance expenses expected to go up, yet another pass-through tracker is being proposed by Black Hills. Another excessive ask is an equity-thick capital structure that's higher than the company's actual consolidated capital ratios. This is unduly costly to customers, is discretionary, and should be moderated in the Commission's order. Yet another excessive ask is for rate recovery of stock-based incentives to management based upon financial results. This is contrary to usual regulatory policy around the country If earnings are increased, these incentives should be paid for out of earnings, not simply passed through to customers. One place where AARP agrees with Black Hills is the company's use of a recent short-term average of weather data to determine what is normal weather. As you know, utility rates are set based upon an evaluation of revenues at present sales and normal weather conditions. In Kansas, like the rest of the country, there's a clear trend toward more severe summers and milder winters. Black Hills has recognized this trend in advocating for a recent 10-year average of degree days to define normal heating loads. This same result, shorter term averaging, should be required of Evergy in its pending rate case, where the trend toward more intense summer cooling loads should be recognized, and not obscured by Evergy's suggestion to use a 30-year average dating back to 1991 to define what is normal weather. A consistent approach is needed from staff and the commission with respect to weather normals. Thank you for hearing from AARP in this important case, and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Brush. All right. I do not have any other names on my physical list for those in the room, and I don't see any other hands on Zoom. But before we conclude, I want to pause and give one more opportunity for anybody in the room to raise their hand or come to the microphone, or for anyone on Zoom to raise their hand using the reactions button. All right, I had my pause and I don't see anyone else requesting to make a comment. So if there are no further comments, I would like to remind everyone that the public comment period remains open until 5 p.m. on June 20, 2025. And if we have the slide available to show folks how to make additional comments by either online or mail or phone. Thank you. These are all the ways that you can make comments, and we do encourage anyone that didn't speak tonight but wishes to make a comment to submit a comment via one of these methods. The evidentiary hearing in this matter is scheduled to begin in Topeka in the Commission's first floor hearing room on June 30th, 2025 at 9 a.m. and is scheduled to end on July 2nd. The Commission must issue a decision by August 29th, 2025. This concludes the public hearing. Thank you for joining us. We are now adjourned. Thank you.